Hello, and welcome. It is Saturday, December 5th, 2020, and this is Truly News. As we begin this new day, let's start by increasing your knowledge and expanding your insights with a review of today's news. As always, we begin with a look at the top stories from around the country. And here are the stories that are leading the news today. Today's headlines: DACA reinstated. Student loans postponed. Decriminalizing marijuana. Biden scales back inauguration. On Friday, a federal judge in New York ordered the reinstatement of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals (DACA) program. The Trump administration tried to end the program, but the Supreme Court ruled in June that the approach Trump was using was unlawful. The newest order requires the government to reopen the program. The Secretary of Education announced on Friday that payments on student federal loans would be suspended until the end of January. Payments on student loans were originally suspended for 60 days in March. In August, the deferment was extended until the end of the year. This newest extension is for an additional 30 days that will end January 31st. Also on Friday, the House of Representatives voted to decriminalize marijuana. A number of states have already made marijuana legal, but it remains illegal at the federal level. Marijuana became illegal when it was first listed as a drug in 1970. This is the first time since that criminalization the vote has been taken to decriminalize nationally. In an effort to help combat the COVID crisis, President-elect Joe Biden has announced that his inauguration will be scaled back. He is also reconsidering the traditional inauguration parade. Biden is presently working with a team that produced the Democratic National Convention to look at options for virtual access to the inauguration. And that's your top news for today. Now, in our look beyond the main headlines, let's begin with the latest advances in science, technology, and space exploration. In science news, 15-year-old student named Time magazine's first ever Kid of the Year. Gitanjali Rao, a sophomore at the STEM school Highlands Ranch in Denver, has been named Time magazine's Kid of the Year. Rao has used artificial intelligence technology to create apps that help tackle social problems like contaminated drinking water, cyberbullying, opioid addiction. He was selected by the magazine from over 5,000 young people who were nominated for the honor. In technology news, driverless cars have finally arrived, with a fleet of taxis in China. Self-driving vehicles have been in the works for a long time, and people have often wondered how long it will take for driverless taxis to start shuttling us to our destinations. In China, the wait is over. On Thursday, a startup company called AutoX launched the world's first driverless taxi service in Shenzhen, China. The initial fleet of 25 cars is now providing shuttle service in the downtown area. In space news, NASA awards moon sample contracts to companies who bid low for the honor. NASA has awarded 4 contracts to companies to collect samples from the moon and deliver them to NASA. The total amount of the bids was only $25,001. The low number reflects the fact that the companies are already in the process of developing moon missions. Being one of the companies chosen for the projects gives the companies publicity and access to working with NASA. And that is your science, technology, and space news for today. Now we look at the latest in health, social, and environmental news. In health news, Biden prepares to lead the country and tackle COVID with a 100-day mask plan. In an effort to slow the record-breaking spread of COVID, President-elect Biden has announced a 100-day mask plan. Out of respect for the present administration, Biden has avoided taking on leadership roles prior to his inauguration. However, he said that he will immediately ask the American public to honor a request to wear masks in public for 100 days, as soon as he takes office. In social news, concerns over children living in poverty increase as COVID continues. According to a new report released by the Pew Research Center, child poverty reached a record low just before the pandemic. However, with COVID dragging on and the economy suffering, those numbers may be on the rebound. Last year, 14% of American children were living in poverty. The concern, now, is a return to the pre-COVID levels that reached a high of 22% in 2010. In environmental news, Denmark sets new standards for addressing carbon emissions. On Friday, Denmark became the latest country to announce new goals for reducing carbon emissions. The country had already set a general goal of reducing emissions by 70% between now and the year 2030. To further that goal, the parliament has agreed to put 775,000 electric or hybrid cars on its roads over the next 10 years. There are presently 20,000 electric vehicles in Denmark. And that is your health, social, and environmental news for today. Now, it is time for our look at economic and world news. In economic news, the trade deficit increased in October as U.S. imports continued to grow. The United States trade deficit is the difference between the dollar amount of the goods that the country exports and the amount that it imports. A deficit means that America spends more on imports than the amount it sells to other countries. The U.S. has been running a deficit since the early 1970s. The data released yesterday shows that the present deficit is around $63 billion a month. In world news, school teacher in India wins $1 million prize for best teacher, and he pledges to give half to the runners-up. Ranjit Singh Desale, a teacher at a primary school in India, has been awarded the 2020 Global Teacher Prize. The honor is bestowed by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, and it comes with $1 million prize. The teacher, from the village of Pariduwadi, was humbled by the announcement. He said that he plans to share half of the prize with the other individuals who were nominated. And that is your economic and world news for today. To wrap things up, we take a look at your entertainment options with newly released movies, shows, and books. In newly released movies, today's movie is Let 'Em Go. Following the loss of their son, a retired sheriff and his wife leave Montana to rescue their young grandson from a dangerous family. Let 'Em Go is now available for purchase on various streaming services. In newly released shows, today's show is Industry. A group of graduates compete for positions at an investment bank, but boundaries between colleague, friend, lover, and enemy soon blur. Episodes of Industry are now showing on HBO Max. Finally, in entertainment news, our newly published book is Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. In a sequel to Ready Player 1, Wade Watts discovers a technological advancement and goes on a new quest. This book is presently #1 on the New York Times fiction bestseller list. And that is your entertainment news for today. To see today's new movie, show, and book, or to browse our previous reviews, visit the Truly News Daily Print Edition. The print edition is available at trulynews.org. There you will find all of today's news, with archives of past news that is searchable by subject. As always, we end our podcast with hope for humanity, stories about the goodness and kindness people show each other every day. And here is today's story. From the Alien Times Herald. A letter to the paper about an act of kindness. This week, the Alien Times Herald in Alien, New York published a brief, but poignant, letter from a reader. She wanted to share a story about a random act of kindness. Here are her words. While I was checking out at Walmart, the cashier informed me a secret Santa had paid for half my order. I did not know this person and I wanted to thank him. God bless you for your Christmas spirit. And that is your news for 44,170. Have a wonderful day.